If your active horizontal alignment does not display exactly like mine does, it is probably because you forgot to load the preferences file. The preferences file has the settings for how each different element is going to display. So in this case, it uses a solid red line style with a red color to display the horizontal alignment with these yellow triangles. If I zoom in here, yellow triangles indicating the point of beginning and point of ending on our horizontal alignment. Also, if you haven't been following along, I suggest you do and get a feel for using these tools and commands on your own instead of just watching me do it. So that's the best way that I've found to learn and help others learn, is to show them the tool and then let them try it on their own and get a feel for how it functions. Now that we are viewing the active horizontal, what we can do is annotate that horizontal alignment. In order to do this, we go up to our geometry, view geometry, pull down here, and do a horizontal annotation. This is going to bring up a dialog box here so that we can set some of the preferences for displaying our horizontal annotation. What you'll notice here is that the horizontal alignment has not been selected automatically. This means we need to go ahead and select which horizontal alignment we want to annotate. I like to call this the geometry picker here, so we can go in and pick which geometry in our display we want to annotate. So I select that little crosshairs there, and it asks us to identify the alignment. So what I'm going to do is select this with a single left click, and it now wants us to either accept or reject that selection. Accept would be a left click, and reject would be a right click. I'm going to go ahead and left click to accept, and now our dialog pops back up. And with the horizontal alignment in our selected, see our Cooper Street alignment here in our selected list. We can also check on and off some of the points or elements that we want to display in our annotation. We're going to keep all of these default so that we can take a look at what it looks like. I'm going to hit apply, and we see here, well, let me first close this so I can zoom in here, and we can see along this curve we have a curve length of 280.53 feet with a radius of 600 and a change in angle of 26 degrees. If we go up to this one, this is a straight portion of our alignment with a tangent length of 359 feet and a direction with a north and west heading. Again, each one of these pieces of the alignment have their own information annotated on the alignment here. So now that we've seen it annotated in our display here in MicroStation, what we can also do is go ahead and review the horizontal alignment and see that annotation in a report form. So if I go up to Geometry, Review Horizontal, it comes up with this report, much like the report we saw in the Surface Properties dialog a little bit ago. But this has our project name, description, horizontal alignment, name, as well as all of the information. So we saw the first element was linear, and it had a point of beginning with a tangent direction and tangent length. We can see that this, if I make this a little bit smaller here, this tangent direction and tangent length correspond to this portion of the alignment right here that we were zoomed in on. If I zoom out here, we can see that right now it's displaying all of the information about the entire alignment. What we can do is switch to element mode up here at the top of our review dialog, and now it's reviewing just the first portion. So this is a point of beginning, and that's the point of ending. So the point of beginning is at a 10+35 station with the northing and easting here. And we can just use our next little button over here on the right to go through each section. We can see that this curved or circular element here has a radius of 335, as well as all of the length and other information associated with it. So that's under element mode. If we go back to alignment mode, what we can always do is go ahead and save this out as a text file and come back to it or send it to someone to give them the information that they need. Now I'm going to close out of this, and what we're going to talk about is stationing. So if I go back to my view geometry menu, you see there's an option about halfway down here for the stationing. So why don't you go there now? And this comes up with another dialog. So as you'll notice as you go through with, if you've used MicroStation before, you are familiar with the tool settings. So whichever tool you pick, there's some settings that correspond to that tool. InRoads is very similar in whatever command you picked from your menu pull down over, either on the surface or the geometry, or there's all these other tabs. Whichever command you pick, there are some settings that you have to choose before you actually apply that command. So it's very similar to MicroStation in that regard. So this is our view stationing settings. And since we're dealing with the Cooper Street alignment, we want to keep that set here. If we had other horizontal alignments, like the Maple Street, which was originally active, but we made the Cooper Street active, which is why it shows up here first, we want to leave that set there. What we can do is set a limit for the stations that we want to display on for our stationing. We want to see the stationing for the entire alignment, so we're going to leave that blank. The rest of these are just different settings for how you want the stationing to display. So you can set how the format is going to look for each one of these stations or ticks. As well, you can set for cardinal stations, you can have it either display the station number or the northing and easting. And there's just other options that we can go through. We're going to leave all of these set as default because they are already set in our preferences file. First things first, our preferences file, in this case, with this file, there's a difference between using InRoads V8i and InRoads XM. Since I'm in V8i, as you can see up here, Bentley InRoads V8i, I'm going to have to hit load to load that preference and then close. Now I hit apply, and we see that this stationing shows up correctly. Close, and now we can go through and see our stationing lines here. You'll notice that all of these markings are upside down, and that's because the bottom of this alignment here is down here at the bottom, and so it follows the alignment. And that is something that we had set as our default, so it follows the alignment from the point of beginning to the point of ending here up at the top. We can see for each point here we have a point of tangency, a point of intersection, point of curvature. All these points are stationed with their station underneath here. If you're wondering how I'm panning, instead of scrolling with the middle mouse button or the scroll wheel that I have on my mouse, I'm just holding down the middle mouse button and then moving left or right to pan left or right. So that's how I'm panning, and then I'm using the scroll wheel to zoom in and zoom out. Alright, so now let's review what we've done. We've opened a geometry project file. We've gone in and looked at the horizontal alignment. We've viewed that horizontal alignment. We've set it as active so that we can view it. Then we've annotated that horizontal alignment and gotten the lengths and radius and directions of each element on our alignment, and then we've gone in and shown the stationing for the horizontal alignment. In this case, it's Cooper Street. And these white lines with the yellow markings are our stationing. Next, we're going to take a look at the vertical alignments.